I think I'm going to try to keep this video a little simpler and to the point than what I typically do in videos. It's just going to focus on different ways to move track on coasters in Planet Coaster 2. Because unfortunately, there still isn't like an advanced move tool for track segments, so you kind of have to figure out clever ways to move track to where you want it to go. I've figured out a couple ways, I think. Especially since I've learned more of the controls since doing that video on vertical loops. So I'll touch on that a little bit more too. First things first, let's grab a coaster. Okay, so in this first example, let's say we have two loops right here, and then we have the third loop. We're trying to center this loop nice and evenly so that it's right between these two back here. Here's how you can do that. So I've got these walls built right here. This is just helping me find the center point. Just gonna build these out. I'm just gonna try to center these walls between these two supports as best as possible so it looks the most even. That should be good enough. All right, now it's time to actually move some coaster track. So like I said, never gonna get over that. Where like you open the coaster and you go to click something and it just starts adding track pieces to the end. Anyway, it's you have to hit escape, then click. Now you can actually select stuff. Anyway, so like I said at the beginning, there's not really an advanced move tool, so to speak, where you can just nice and easily move this loop exactly where you want to. It'll let you make it bigger and smaller, which I actually don't know if you could resize prefabricated pieces in Planet Coaster 1, so at least that's nice. You can rotate, but you can't really move it at all. However, if you select a couple like this, now it gives you the option to move it up, move it down, move it left, move it right. But there's still no way to move it forward, but there is a way. Here's how you do it. You're going to delete a bunch of these, and you're going to turn 90 degrees and then straighten it back out, then just start spamming. Now I'm going to add one really long piece at the very end. Now I'm going to go back and highlight everything, including the loop and one segment before the loop. So this segment right here is going to get deformed a bit, and then these segments right here are what make it possible to move it forward. So the key is that these movement icons have to be over one of the track segments that's perpendicular to the loop. If it's like on the corner piece or on the segment that's after, it's not going to work. You just have to make sure that it's on a track piece that's perpendicular, because since these let you move left and right, it'll let you move left and right. However, this corner piece is doing something funny, and this is moving not forward, it's moving left and right still. So how do we get over that? The key is the control and shift keys. See, I didn't know about the control before, but now I do thanks to Silverhead. In his video about making loops easily, he had a great demonstration of what the control key did. I never noticed that control was actually doing anything. The way that he explained it and demonstrated it made it crystal clear. So we're going to be going over some cool things you can do by holding control and shift. See, even just holding control, it's doing it pretty decently, but as you can see, we're hitting some track limits in the corner. So if you hold control and shift, now it's nice and even, and we can move very far before we end up hitting any limits. So now that we've got that covered, I'm going to build all the way up to the top of the loop and align it based on that. Oh yeah. Here we go. Now we're in business. Now I can go back. Did it again. I tried to click and I'm just adding pieces. So actually I will just build a, just to make sure I don't hit the track limits, build an extra long piece right there. Highlight everything. Now I can put my camera like this and bam. Get that connector right in the center. Now the center of the loop is nice and evenly aligned between these two. And what's cool is this technique works with your own custom pieces and not just prefabricated pieces like that loop. So let me build out a quick example for that. So in my last video about loops, I showed a technique where I use a 20-meter piece up to 45, 10 meters to 90, 8 meters to 45, 6 meters to flat, 6 meters back to 45, 8 to 90, 10 to 45, or in this case negative 130, 5, and then flat at 20. So we built this nice little loop, but since I didn't know about holding control, I didn't realize how easy this could be. So in that video, I showed that if you tried to move this piece over like this, it starts to, it starts to do this. I don't know what exactly this is, but it starts to do that. So I said, oh, we should be able to hold shift and then it should move over. That also didn't work. But now I've been enlightened by the control key. So if you hold control, it actually does move over nice and smoothly. But you may have noticed now that this first half is perfectly straight. All the twisting happens here. And it kind of, does this weird S-bend. So let's go over how to get rid of that. First things first, I'm going to delete this long piece and go spam 4-meter sections again, baby. Now I'm going to select the first piece of the loop, not the segment before it, but the actual first 20-meter segment of the loop. Go all the way around and highlight to the end. You see how these controls are still in the loop? That means I don't have enough of these extra segments at the end. So I'm going to go back, spam more, and then highlight them again and see where it ends up. Alright, so now it looks like we are right here, which is 1, 2 away. So I'm going to go back here. Alright, here we go. This is perfect. This is what we want. We want these controls to be directly on the joint between the last segment of the loop and the first random 4-meter segment. So what this means is that this piece right here is going to stay parallel, because this is where we're dragging from. So this piece is always going to be parallel. You see how these ones start to kind of twist and move and change angle? If we have the controls directly at the very end of that segment of the loop, we know it's going to stay parallel, so that's super important. So now we can do this, and you see if I drag it without pressing anything, we're starting to run into track limits, it's doing all sorts of weird stuff, but if I hold control now, it'll go nice and smooth. And we can actually take this out pretty extreme, to the point where it actually becomes more of a corkscrew than a loop. Whatever this is. So this is pretty powerful stuff. You can make all sorts of crazy inversions with this. It's like, look at this. This is, yeah, this is pretty nuts. But let's just do a quick loop for a nice little example. So once again, got the controls right on the last segment. I'm holding control, just moving it over just enough for clearance. That's fine for this demonstration. Alright, and now look at that. Nice, easy, perfectly symmetrical loop. And should be very smoothable too. So I'm gonna highlight these two segments, just smooth. Highlight these two segments, smooth. Highlight these segments, smooth. See if I can get the whole loop. Just hit it with one smooth. Ooh, wow. Yeah, that really change the shape. But yeah, as you can see, it's super smoothable too. It's not running into any track limits, so this is good stuff. It's definitely way easier to make loops this way than I did in my video about why it's hard to make loops. Yeah, the control key changes everything, but it doesn't end there, because we can also use it to reposition the loop the same way we did with this one. So now that I've got my loop nice and shaped correctly, I can go and highlight all this, delete it, put in a hard 90, straighten back out, and now I'm going to spam 20-meter segments. So once again, for this technique, we don't need it to be on a specific point. We just want to make sure that it's on this perpendicular segment. So remember, I've got this extra piece highlighted here because this is the piece that's going to deform as we move, and we've got the controls perpendicular to the loop. So now by holding control and shift, I can move this loop back and forth pretty much however far I want. So this is really good for just making those little micro adjustments. Like if you're working on a layout and you just want to move something just a little bit, that's what you do. If we can do this on a vertical loop in this game, you can do it with any sort of track. And here's another cool thing. It's not even just for back and forth perpendicular. Let's say we wanted to move something 45 degrees. Just put this 45, straighten it out, spam, and do the same thing. Highlight, hold control and shift. And see that it's moving at a nice 45. So yeah, we don't have an advanced move tool, but we have this, and it's, I think you can do what you need to do using this technique. And it's the same deal even if you just don't even turn the track at all. You can use this technique to move things side to side without compromising the actual shape of the element. Let's just spam a whole bunch of segments at the end. Add a nice long piece. Give us enough room to deform as much as possible. Highlight the whole element that you want to move. Now, so even though this is parallel to the element now, we can use this to move things left and right without distorting them. Once again, we'll look from above just to get a nice clear view on what's actually happening. Holding control and shift, I can move it left and right, and it moves perfectly left and right without distorting the shape of the element at all. Let's have a hypothetical situation here. we just built this element, we spent tons of time on it, but we don't really want it to be here in the layout. We think, I want this kind of element in this coaster, I really want to build something else now, and I don't want to have to go through all the hassle of rebuilding this element because I just spent a lot of time doing it. I want to move it to here now. Let's challenge ourselves to move this loop right over this spot. So I'm going to go in, make sure I've got a nice big piece that'll deform as much as possible, and I've already got all this set up. I'm going to go back and delete. I'll go and add a new 20-meter segment right here, just so that we can deform that piece as much as possible, because remember, because when you hold Control and Shift, and here's the key to this, I probably should have mentioned this like earlier on, but the key to all this is that when you hold both Control and Shift, the only pieces that are going to deform at all are the first and last piece. So that's why I keep adding these super long pieces, because they take all the twisting. So the longer it is, the longer these pieces are, the further you can go before it starts to hit track limits. So I'm going to move to here, let go, place it, delete that piece, delete that piece. And, in the previous video I was referring to these kinds of segments as sacrificial, as you basically just build them, use them to take all the deformation that happens, and then after you're done moving you just delete them. We're going to move over a little bit more, there, delete the sacrificial pieces, and then rebuild them, highlight everything, just keep doing it. Okay, that track is now right in the middle where I want this piece to end up. So now I can start moving the loop forward. I'm actually going to make this piece really small since it's going to be stretching out longer. I want it to be able to stretch as long as possible before it hits track limits. But we want all these to be perpendicular to the loop now so that I can move forward. So I'm going to get rid of them. And there we go. I wasn't careful enough right there, and as you can see, these controls are slightly into this curve, so it's not moving perfectly forward and backwards, it's moving it to the left a little bit. So you make sure that I have enough segments so that these control markers are perpendicular to the element. And go back and do it again. Hitting the track limit up here, in case you're wondering why I keep stopping and doing it over and over again. It's kind of hard to see at this distance, but this piece up here is the one that's hitting the track limits first, right about there. So back and bam. And sacrifice. Sacrifice. And there we go. Got my element where I wanted it to end up. So yeah, it's kind of a process, but now we can actually just move pieces right to where we want them to go, even after they've been built, and without worrying that they're going to get distorted along the way. It would be easier if there was just like an advanced move tool, but we don't have that, so this is what we can do in the meantime. Alrighty, and I've got one last trick up my sleeve. So we've already been able to move things forward, backwards, left, and right, but can we rotate entire sections of track without distorting them? Yes, you can. Check this out. So let's say we have our element. We don't want to distort it, but we want to rotate it. So let's go grab a loop. Actually, let me delete this because this is 20 meters. I'm going to put this all the way down to 4. Just going to choose a loop, place it. I'm not going to add any extra segment at the end. So the last segment is just the loop. Now, over here, I'm just going to throw in a block section break run. And now, highlight it all, hold shift, and bam, look at that. You can just rotate it however you want. So there you go. We can pretty much just put pieces wherever we want. It's a little convoluted at times, but it's doable. Hopefully some of these little pointers were helpful, because I know I'm going to be using the hell out of these when I'm playing, because I am very particular. And I'm constantly like reprofiling things and moving things backwards and forwards and up and down to make sure that the G-forces are just right, the speeds are just right, or if I'm building a dueling coaster, to make sure that timing is correct. And of course, once we get custom music available, I'm definitely going to be using these techniques to make sure that my timing is correct for songs. But yeah, Coaster Builder is turning out to be even more powerful than I thought it was at first. And I already knew it was more powerful than the first games, but there's some little tricks that we can pull to get things just how we want. And with all of that being said, adios amigos. And once again, I'm gonna show my shirts. because I've been selling shirts on Cafe Press for just about 20 years now, and I want to make some more sales. So I'm gonna be showing off my I'm Just a Chill Guy merch. So yeah, if you're a chill guy looking for some chill merch, maybe you're just a chill gal looking for some chill merch, or maybe even a little guy. That's right, we've got you covered. Not only that, we've got even more. We've got backpacks, we've got drinkware. Even if you're a dog, I mean, who doesn't want to put a dog in a I'm Just a Chill Guy shirt? Every dollar you spend helps support my pizza habit, which is potentially fatal pizza habit, but you know, it's worth habits out there to support.